From Provo, Utah, this is the Ultimate Final Fantasy Podcast with your hosts, Joseph DeGolier and Kaleb Schweiss. This is Ultima Final Fantasy. Welcome to another episode of Ultima Final Fantasy, the Ultimate Final Fantasy Podcast. I am Joe.
I am Kaleb.
And I'm also Kaleb.
And you might be wondering why we have Craig on this episode, and it's because we're going to be talking about what we've always wanted to talk about, the leaked information from a, was it former Square Enix employee?
Yes, so some people might know about a YouTube video that goes over the same stuff, and I'm sorry we're going to be repeating that, but Schweiss doesn't know anything about it as far as I know, and also many of our listeners probably don't know about it. A possible, now this is still alleged, but it's his information is so specific that it seems like it's really not alleged, like it was actually a dude who worked at Square Enix for a few months. He leaked a lot of stuff about what Versus 13 used to be, what they were planning on for 15, and what they sort of lost on the way to the Rush 15 version. So this is going to be a Final Fantasy 15 spoiler-filled episode, and there will be also a lot of reading involved. So if you got a fucking problem with that, you're just going to have to wait till next week's episode.
Yeah.
When we talk about something else, possibly Final Fantasy 13.
Yeah.
But we'll see.
Spoilers for sure. If you guys haven't beaten 15... do not listen to the rest of this episode. We've been pretty good about not spoiling anything from Final Fantasy 15 outside of the 15 review episode, but this is going to be one of those rare times where we dive deep, and I'm sure there's going to be a shitload of spoilers in it because it's a lot of stuff that they were planning on doing with the game that they ended up not doing with the game.
And also maybe a second opinion on Final Fantasy 15 from Kaleb Craig, who, although we thought he was going to be on the 15 episode, was not.
Yeah.
You guys didn't invite me to be on it.
It's probably...
We did invite you to be on it.
That's a lie.
It's probably for the better, though. That was a super long episode anyway, and a third person always makes it even longer.
It's true. It's at least like an hour, it seems. At least it did for like 7.
Right, yeah, it was a long one. So, shoot.
Okay, well, Schweiss, where are you in Final Fantasy 13 too?
I think I'm on like day 3 or day 4. I played for, I think, 1 or 2 hours on Sunday. I haven't really been playing it very much this week. I've been kind of doing other stuff, playing a lot of Battlefield and a lot of Overwatch, and then a few hours of that Tales of Zestiria game. But I have not been giving 13-2 the love it needs.
Well, how about you, Craig? You playing some 13-2?
How far am I in 13-2?
Yeah,
I have seen the opening cutscene.
Oh, wow. That's good.
That's pretty good. I mean, that is like 2 hours long, right?
Yeah, well.
It's a lightning fight.
I mean, I have the game. I just have not played it at all.
Why not?
Didn't we all at one point have the game without ever having to play it, without ever playing it at all?
I think Joe may have been the first one to play my copy.
Oh, really?
No, I had my own copy. I got it on midnight. Yeah, I got it on I didn't get it on the midnight release, but I got it on release. I pre-ordered it.
For 13-2?
Yeah. That's why I have that special edition.
Because I remember, like I was there with you when you were playing it, so I couldn't remember if it was my copy or not.
Oh. You sure you're not talking about 13?
No, I remember us both playing 13.
Yeah, we played 13 day 1 together.
Yeah.
Holding hands on the couch.
It's true.
Yeah, it wasn't Caleb.
It was a glorious day.
Isn't that why?
No, my brother-in-law.
Oh, yeah.
He had like a 70-inch TV, and we were just like...
Huge TV. They were gone. And so my sister was just like, yeah, you can play it at my house if you want. So we did that.
And it was worth it.
It was worth it, I think.
Those cutscenes were awesome when that's
That's true, yeah. I've never seen anything like that before. Currently, I am in 13-2, and I think I am going to beat it late tonight. I am in the final... You never know. I might get stuck somewhere and get really pissed off again. But I am in the final level, right before the final boss, doing like this crazy puzzle thing where there's like a delay on my jump button, and I'm falling through these godforsaken cracks in the floor, and it doesn't kill you, but it might as well, because you then have to like start over from like a few sections away, and it is... Could be my TV and its small video game delay, but it is infuriating.
You have to plug it in
to play that thing.
We have to plug it into Caleb's TV for like 2 seconds while you do that part.
Yeah, like I said on Nude Clan, I might have to switch it into game mode before going over because I haven't actually tried that yet. Something I should have tried.
You've had the TV for how long and you haven't tried it in game mode?
Well, no, I have tried it in game mode in general, but I don't think the HDMI port that I have in there right now has been like... It doesn't trigger game mode automatically. It's probably in cinema mode or something where it, the exact timing between me pressing the X button and her jumping, not as important possibly.
Okay.
So that's where we're at. Anyway, before we get into our Final Fantasy 15 discussion, and before we go over what this leaked stuff is, and before we even get to news, how about some plugs? You can go to Facebook.com/Ultima Final Fantasy. You can check us out live streaming on Twitch.tv/Ultima Final Fantasy. Catch us recording the episodes live. And, what else? You can tweet me at Joseph DeGollier.
Me at Obsidian Ba.
Me at UFF Podcast.
I don't know who that Obsidian Ba guy was.
I forget that.
It's like he doesn't belong here.
Yeah, it's weird.
Okay. You can go to ultimafinalfantasy.com, join our forums there, and if you want to support the show, there's a PayPal link on ultimafinalfantasy.com. There's an Amazon link you can click through, buy your Trojan Magnum condoms through, and we get a small kickback. And there's also a Patreon link there, patreon.com/ultimafinalfantasy. You can support the show there. Dave will get that cover out to you, I swear to God. He's working on it. He's been celebrating his Grammy. He's been celebrating his new beer that he put out.
Yeah, he's been
despite him being an ex-alcoholic. Yeah. I don't know what happened to that. Despite all that, he's working really hard, so he'll get that song out to you. I swear to God, guys. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter even if the patron goal goes low for a few months or whatever. That goal was met. That goal will be done.
Right, yeah. Same thing for any episode dedications or episode invites. It's only a one-time thing, so if we owe it to you, we owe it to you forever, so.
Yep.
Until it gets done.
Is that everything? I believe it is. You want to let's get to some news, Schweiss. Shinru and a couple other folks gave us some really good news this week.
All right, let's read it. News. So I guess we should start things off with the least newsy piece of news, which happens to be in the form of a rumor for Final Fantasy 15.
Yeah.
Apparently there's an update leaked on various forums, and there's 1.05 update is going to make Somnus play through a final dungeon, the Insomnia, through the fights, and further development on Final Fantasy 15 is ongoing, which we sort of know because they have the DLC stuff that obviously they have some groundwork laid out, but if they had it all done, they would probably release it anyway. They've got additional cutscenes with Ravus and Niflheim. It's going to be added into new game mode, in addition to episode Prompto content. There's additional cutscenes with Noctis and Luna that are going to be added into the new game mode. I assume new game is new game plus. That's what it looks like. Additional cutscenes with Cor Leonis and Regis are going to be added as well.
Regis.
With the episode Gladiolus content. The Platinum demo is going to be added to the main game as a bonus mode, which is kind of weird. Episode Ignis is supposed to be, or rumored to be, released in Q4 of 2017. And there's an unannounced expansion, World of Verses. It's going to be unveiled at E3 2017 with a Q1 2018 release expected. It's supposed to be a much darker tone than the base game. It covers the demons Noctis faces during his 10-year slumber. This is the Versus world, the world of dreams that Noctis can enter in his slumber. Themes of loss and tragedy will be
Kaleb
developed.
Craig just gave a rolled eye.
And expanded upon.
Just one single rolled eye.
Yeah.
I rolled both.
Oh, I only saw one. Sorry.
Oh.
Must have been the angle. Yeah.
So that kind of sounds like they're realizing that a lot of people feel the way we did about the World of Ruin and are very underwhelmed and extremely disappointed in a 10-year time jump followed by a 35-minute trek to the final boss fight and the credits.
Yeah.
And that's honestly, that is probably one of my biggest gripes about 15 is the 10-year gap, and then we don't get any gameplay really.
I think no one says anything when he comes back. They're just like,
yeah. It's just like, oh, cool, there he is. Let's go beat the game.
He's here.
Yeah, so not sure how much of that'll be true, but it doesn't seem too bullshit. So
there's been a lot of leaks for 15, and a lot of them came true.
That's true. Yeah,
I mentioned that, so you never know, but that it could be legit. We did have a patch for 15, by the way, 1.05 looks like. It's got a PS4 Pro console light mode. It's compatible with that, with the maximum of 60 FPS enabled, which is, I guess people who care. Do you care about the frame rate, Schweiss?
You can really see frame rate issues at some points in games, but
I mean, can you tell the difference between a 30 frame rate game and a 60 frame rate game? Does the 60, does it really play any better?
I think it does, but anywhere, I don't think 30 looks super bad. You can tell when a 60 frame per second game drops to 30, but I don't think 30 as a baseline is horrible. So I don't know. It's kind of this obsession that a lot of people have with the frames per second, and I don't think it really matters as much for console because they're kind of built to withstand a drop in frame rate, and they basically, you can tell when you're going to get one. A lot of shit's going on screen.
They're going to have new time quests, higher level cap up to 120. Increased camera roll capacity.
Ooh.
Yay! You get to see some more of Noctis getting on and off the damn chocobo.
Yeah.
That is 200 photos you can have. The music is going on the chocobo rides, and a conclusion of the Moogle Chocobo Carnival, which I don't think either of us have touched.
I didn't touch it either.
Yeah, I totally, I just did not put it in the PlayStation 4 during the time that little event was going on, so nope.
We do have an announcement. Sorry for the coughing, guys. We do have an announcement for Final Fantasy Explorers Force. It's apparently going to be a Final Fantasy Explorers game going on the smartphones in Japan. So
God, how many smartphone games are they going to make?
Until they stop making money. So
yeah.
Never.
Yeah, it looks like it's going to be, it seems kind of classic Final Fantasy. Got some classic classes in here that are announced.
It's supposed to play a lot like the original game. So
yeah, so cool. It'll probably eventually come here and might get a console port. We've seen a couple of the mobile games ending up on console in the last little bit.
How about this piece of news, which we totally called a million years ago?
Yeah. King's Tale Final Fantasy 15 is going to be released for free on March 1st. So all of you guys who went out and bought that at GameStop to get that upon release.
Fuck you.
Yeah, pretty much. I'm kind of glad, though, because I think personally, and I know we both talked about this, exclusive content for certain retailers is kind of bullshit if it remains exclusive forever, because then we don't get to play it. But we all do. So PlayStation 4 and Xbox One, it'll launch on March 1st. So snag that up and play that 2 to 3 hour game.
All right, what is it? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
This is a video that doesn't really have anything to... We're not going to watch the video from the link, but just one headline here, and I do believe this is true, although I haven't really looked into it. But apparently in Stormblood, Schweiss, what minigame are we expecting to see?
Well, the best minigame ever, of course, Blitzball.
God.
Final Fantasy X.
Blitzball.
You think that's the best minigame?
No, I don't actually. I think it's really fun until you realize how
shitty it is.
How broken.
You either have a team that works or you have a team that doesn't work, and you'll either win every time or you'll lose every time. The game part of the game does not exist.
Yeah,
it's the talking to people and getting higher stats part of the game that exists.
Unbalanced as fuck.
Yeah. That is basically what Blitzball is. If you want to actually work your way up in 10, it's almost impossible. But if you go recruit Brother and a couple other key players, then it just becomes a joke. Yeah, it just becomes a joke. I think they have a good opportunity to make a really fun minigame out of Blitzball, as long as they make it a 3D game. The one big issue that Spoonie and we had with it in 10 is that it seems like a really cool idea, but then it's on a 2D plane. It's like you're playing soccer underwater, and then it's really fucking stupid.
I can't really imagine the physics for what would be a 3D version of that game either, though.
You just have a way
to like a very hard thing to learn, to figure out how to design.
Yeah, you'd have to have
to be fun.
You'd have to have like one button for ascend and then a button for descending within the water.
We all know.
It'd be like swimming while simultaneously holding a ball while simultaneously trying to play soccer.
Breathe while
and it would be
pumping the right.
Yeah, it'd be weird. Try playing like FIFA with also the ability to like jump up and down, but permanently.
Yeah.
I imagine it'd be like one of like that Harry Potter Quidditch World Cup game.
Oh.
Which we all know is a classic
game that everyone has played.
Beautifully well rendered game. Yes.
Yeah, I don't know about that. Maybe it will be shit. I don't know. I think it could be fun, but you will have to see.
There's a paragraph down below that's a quote, but apparently Final Fantasy VII's remake. I guess recording's not only in the process, but it's almost finished. And this may just be for the Japanese version of the game. I'm not sure. But here's a quote from Kitase, which is my favorite Square Enix director.
Okay.
Final Fantasy VII Remake requires hefty readiness, he says.
Hefty readiness.
Yeah, the voice actors are practically finished in recording voices for the main stories. Fan might be picturing Cloud from Final Fantasy VII Advent Children for it, but it's a Cloud in his prime from before Advent Children. So you might sense a fresh new performance from it.
Okay. So apparently 2 years aged him like incredibly, like a ton.
Yeah, well, I mean, this is beginning of 7 before all that horrible shit happened to him. So,
okay.
Well, and I mean, I guess the horrible shit that did happen to him before this, he doesn't quite recall because he thinks he's somebody else. So,
yeah, I guess that's true.
Yeah, that's awesome. That means we won't be getting the FF7.
Is it true, or was Cloud faking it the whole time?
Advent Children.
Well, considering there's that whole scene where he goes into a coma and then you go into his dreams, I would imagine that it was real.
Yeah. I'm glad they're not. This is one of the concerns I had for the FF7 remake, is that they were just going to use Advent Children Cloud the entire time, and the fact that they're talking about that not being the case is,
at least with the voice acting.
Yeah, at least with the voice acting is a good sign. It should be a step in the right direction, because I really don't want Advent Children Cloud.
Okay, this is fascinating. So, Final Fantasy XIV has received 3 Guinness World Records at the Frankfurt Fan Festival, which I don't know what that is. But here they are. One of them is the longest credits in an MMO.
Oh, wow.
Look at that. Lasts a whopping 98 minutes for a Realm Reborn.
Wow, are you fucking serious?
Yeah. Masayoshi Soken also accepted the award for most original pieces of music in a video game, where he had composed 384 tracks.
That is sick.
That's why you got to rip off Power Man 9000 or Power Man 5000 every once in a while to keep up with those numbers, right?
Yeah,
that's an old reference to something else. But what is the other one? Oh yeah. Most prolific role-playing series, and this was for Final Fantasy as a whole. 87 official Final Fantasy titles in the series. We're only playing like 60 of them.
Are there really 17 like mobile titles?
There's a lot. I don't know if there's 17.
They might be counting some
stuff in Japan or
we
arcade
don't
games and shit like that.
Okay.
But said 87 titles. So
that
3
is a lot.
New world records for Final Fantasy.
Yeah, the most impressive one, I think, is the Soken one, honestly. That's a lot of fucking pieces of music for one game.
That's crazy.
The credits one just shows you just how much of a mess 14 was for a little while. But Soken, that's a lot of fucking tracks. And sure, some of them might be ripoffs, but whatever. Music is just copying other musicians at this point anyway, right?
I mean, to a point, yes. I mean, there are only so many notes.
Yeah.
Dependent on your culture, I think, actually, because sometimes people do like quarter, like, I guess it's not technically a quarter, like quarter tones or whatever those are. Mm-hmm. And some other places, there's different scales with different tones. It's really interesting. But for the most part, you are correct. Music builds on other music. And it just comes out that way.
Yeah, and there's always some hipster that has your favorite song that was totally a ripoff of some band that no one's ever heard of song. We looked at the one with Godsmack ripoffs that one day. There's the The whole entire soundtrack to Doom and Doom 2 is a total ripoff of every awesome metal album at the time.
From the early 90s,
that was the point.
Yeah. And, yeah, it's just crazy.
Okay, you're the composer for this thing. I'm going to give you some stuff for inspiration. And then he just copies it.
Yeah, he probably like opened up the door and he's like, just copy it.
This is perfect.
Yeah.
Just do it. Just make it
Just take out the lyrics.
Yeah. Yeah, no shit.
Oh my God, dude, that hurts. It's funny though, and it's still great music.
Yeah, it is.
But that's because it was great music before.
Yeah, I know. There was the one I was listening to and I was like, man, that drum, this sounds like a Slayer song. And then the next day, I was listening to South of Heaven and I was like, oh, it is a Slayer song. That's why it sounds like one, is because it's the drums from the fucking song South of Heaven.
Dude, the Angry Chair one.
That one's probably the
Alice in
most shameless.
Chains Angry Chair versus the same fucking track in Doom. I don't know what the Doom track is called.
Yeah.
Note for fucking note.
Yeah, the pacing, all of it. Even the breakdown, it's like, dude, it's fucking shameless.
Someone needs to interview that guy and be like, just say you ripped it all out. They don't care. They don't actually care. Come on.
Used it for good reason.
Used it for great reasons.
Yeah.
The best reasons.
All right. Well, I think it's time to talk about this Final Fantasy 15 stuff. Let's get to it. Okay, these are officially a rumor from 4chan, posted a few months ago from a guy who claimed to be someone who worked at Square Enix for a couple months, and he just said, "Go for it, I'll answer any questions" on 4chan.
No.
And some people think that this is not real, and a lot of people think that this is real. So we'll take everything that we're reading here with a grain of salt. And unfortunately, we don't have the original feed anymore. And believe me, last night I was like, "Fuck, that exists somewhere." And then I found in Final Fantasy Community .com, I believe.
Yeah, it is.
Someone copied and pasted all of the poster's replies. So none of the questions that people asked, but the replies from the poster. And stuck it all up on this other website for us to view. So thank God, this person who goes by the name of Sammy Mitza exists on this other forum, so that we can go over this information. And I just kind of want to get your guys' thoughts as we go along here, probably about one paragraph at a time.
All right.
About Versus 13. This guy says the game centered about death, so they wanted information about Versus 13.
Okay.
It's centered about death, ghosts, and hallucinations/dreams. Noctis killed the female protagonist in Versus before the game started, but he didn't remember.
Okay.
I don't know how we got from there to 15 at all.
Well, I think the one trailer comes to mind when we see that.
The Omen trailer?
The Omen trailer where he ends up killing her. I think that might have been left over from this.
But something they were hanging on to pieces of the old story.
Yeah, yeah.
Arden was Noctis' ancestor, which is something that has been talked about often since the actual 15 came out.
Yeah.
And he was responsible for the crystal's disappearance over time. The only one left was Lucius Crystal. Regis died in front of Noctis because his bodyguards betrayed him. The protagonist had to leave the capital because their nation lost the war. I think this is pretty dope. What I'm reading
this
here.
is,
I think then they were like, "Fuck, we got to make a movie to go along with it."
Yeah, we got to show
shit
him
around.
dying in a movie instead.
Yeah, we need this other guy that's voiced by a Breaking Bad character. Just kidding, the actor. He's a fine actor. The game didn't focus on summons, which we talked about in the 15 episode. that much, although they still existed. Instead, there are actual gods which didn't appear physically, which I assumed were the fal'Cie, because they were once part of the same universe that 15. And that was the thing that kind of kept everything together, was between those two universes, was that, you know, the fal'Cie were the gods of those universes.
Yeah.
God, dude, all the coughing. One of the gods was the main antagonist in the first FF game.
Oh, boy.
Garland.
Oh.
Each nation, or chaos, one of the two, each nation was inspired by a different capital of the world. The Empire was using ghosts as weapons.
Okay.
So we're getting more into the ghost territory again. Ravis wanted to kill Noctis for having killed his sister. And the game ended in another dimension, which was supposed to be their vision of the afterlife, which I think kind of reflects the real ending of 15 that we got.
Yeah, it does.
So this is what you want to read what he says about 15. Sometimes his grammar is really bad. I assume either because this is bullshit and it's a Fortran post, or it's a Japanese guy and he's doing his best.
Yeah. It says the end part of the game was supposed to be bigger. I know for a fact that the Dark World Lestalem was finished. Old Iris was also featured in some scenes. Cindy too. And I also recall them not wanting to change the Cindy design, even though it was problematic because her older designer implied character development.
So the old character designer was like, what the fuck? I wanted my old Cindy design.
Yeah.
Bullshit. But the biggest part of that thing is that he said, according to this guy, Lestalem, the Dark World Lestalem was finished. And it wasn't really included in the game.
No, it wasn't.
So, like, nothing in that Dark World was included in the game except for that little road.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that, Schweiss?
I feel kind of upset. I mean, it felt like that way the whole time, though. That's one of the complaints I had about 15, like I said, was the world of ruin. There was nothing to really explore in the world. I mean, we sort of got an idea of how desolate everything was by going back to Hammerhead and seeing the base they had set up, but you start walking, you walk about half a mile maybe, do some pretty rough fights, I would say, in the world of ruin, get grabbed by a demon wall, and then you get a truck ride all the way back to that area, and then you basically you fast travel to the final area, and then you walk through the town a little bit, and then it's over. Like, there's so much of this world that we could have explored, and reading this, seeing that it was supposed to be bigger, while not surprising, is definitely upsetting. I would have liked to have seen a lot more. Old Iris would have been super cool. Cindy would have been awesome to actually see again. I mean, Iris is supposed to be a fucking badass in this, right? She's supposed to be like a demon hunter, and we don't even get to see her at all. We just get a scene with Talcott telling us about how everything is. And I swear to God, when I was watching that scene the second time, I was like, well, you know, we were going to show you all this stuff, but we'll just have your favorite character, Talcott, just fucking tell you all about it instead of showing it to you.
And you get to look at the little cactuars you gathered for him.
Yeah. That's what I want. That's what I fucking want in the game. So it was kind of a bummer getting to that end area, because when I got there, I was like, dude, this is gonna be fucking sick. And then
he goes on to talk about the release date of the game. He said the game had to be released before this year ended, period. And it was a contract thing. He's talking about 2016. It was a contract thing, and that was set in stone before development with the new director started. So they knew it was going to be released in 2017. That's why the last months of working in the game were painful, and I could not imagine how July through October were for my mates, it says. So we kind of knew that there was some rushing going on, but they did delay the game a couple months. They must have been real scared about what they had. And
it must have been pretty fucking rough when they did that initial delay. It's so annoying too, because they had the eventual release date up on the screen, and then they jump it back to September, And then it ends up coming out in November anyway.
So get this. Last year, and I believe he means 2015 by this, last year, the game story got rewritten because fans kept asking to play as Gladiolus, Ignis, and Prompto, so they had to insert playable characters for those characters into the narrative. But since we didn't have time to work on them, the decision to release them as downloads were made from the get-go.
Ooh.
So
DLC
it was going to be incomplete.
Oh, man.
Said, I know that there are some game levels, scenes, and options that were cut because we couldn't finish them in time. I don't know if they will be released as downloads, but I hope they will. That's it's not surprising, I would say. Here's the thing that was surprising to me when at KupoCon, Alex interviewed Ray Chase. Was that Ray Chase, the English voice actor, the guy who plays Noctis?
Yeah.
He said that there was only one little scene, and he told us what it was, and it was kind of benign. Mm-hmm. There was only one little scene that he remembered being cut out of the game, or that when he played the game, didn't notice.
Right.
And so, if both are to be believed, both Ray Chase and this 4chan guy. Mm-hmm. By the way, 4chan is the asshole of the internet.
Yeah.
So keep that in mind. If this 4chan guy is to be believed, then those decisions were made kind of earlier on before voice acting really got finished or even started. So
yeah, they if there's only one scene,
so
that's
they knew
cut.
at some point they were like, we got to cut all this before we even start.
Right, yeah,
shit.
because the only one scene was missing. That means they used every ounce of Ray Chase's talent other than that one scene.
He says the feeling of the kind of overall feeling of the staff towards how the game turned out, he sums it up as, we could have done more. He claims the team literally ran out of time. There were such cool concepts and stuff that were left unfinished because we knew that they weren't going to make the release date. However, the team is pretty happy to have worked on the game, and they didn't feel like they wasted their time. I'm sure they will continue to work on the game and improve it to match their vision. And claims that the game is, in fact, unfinished, according to this guy. So they had to cut a bunch of shit, and it doesn't matter. The game it's not complete, even to the team members. So I don't know at what point in their development they decided that the DLC was just going to be how they were going to like secretly patch this game into maybe a more full game, although I enjoyed the game a lot as it was. That's kind of interesting. Kaleb Craig, did you know about any of this stuff?
I knew that some of the stuff wasn't completed and that they had like people were finding like parts that they could go into if they like glitched it a little bit, that there had like more open stuff that they could find. So I knew it wasn't a complete game, but some of this stuff I didn't know about. Like it was going to be, well, I kind of knew it was going to be darker before, but they changed it up, but I didn't know exactly how or that he had killed her or anything. So I didn't know any of this.
Yeah, well, remember also that it was like a planned trilogy too. So they had to trim for that as well, or whatever they, I don't know what pieces of Versus 13's trilogy they kind of kept. But I mean, they obviously had to kind of pick and choose, like what were the cool parts or something.
Yeah. I think, I don't know, I feel like a lot of it, I think 13 was a good test run for them to see how a trilogy would play out, and maybe that's why they went with the single game with a movie add-on, because I know they wanted to distance themselves from the 13 lore just because of how the 13 sequels were going in the shitter, basically, as far as sales go. But as far as what the running out of time thing, I mean, that's something that I kind of could tell happened before, so it's not super surprising. So far, none of this has been super crazy, I would say. I felt like it was kind of unfinished. I think the idea of them releasing story patches after the fact proves that that's unfinished, that it's either unfinished or it's in a state of not perfection in their eyes, so they're willing to change it by adding those cutscenes to give more storyline to Ravis and to Core these other various characters, if they felt like they had a finished product, they wouldn't, like, who cares what the audience thinks? Like, well, if you don't think you got enough of this character, then you just need to play the game again and pay more attention. But because they're so open about the feedback they've received during chapter 13 in the game, I can totally buy it. That they're like, oh yeah, fuck it, yeah, it's not complete. We'll throw in more cutscenes.
So
and
finish the release date to, I assume, appease the the major stockholders in the company, and then they go, okay, but we also have to make the fans happy, and we need to make sure that they come back for the next Final Fantasy game and don't just leave us because of this unfinished product. So in a way, the DLC is their way of kind of masking history, much like kind of Realm Reborn almost masks.
Yeah, when they did
Final
the
Fantasy
2.0 thing, yeah.
Yeah. It's almost, I don't think it's to that extent, obviously. It's not a whole new game, but it is sort of
The game is Swiss
similar
cheese,
move.
and they're trying to fill in the holes.
Sure.
Yeah.
That's a pretty good device there you used. I'm proud of you, Caleb. Thank you. You used a literary device.
I did, yeah.
man,
Man.
you're growing up so fast.
So
true.
most of the development time centered around the Lucius area. The later parts of the games were also supposed to have smaller areas. He says they were smaller, but there were other areas
Okay.
for the characters to explore, but they weren't finished.
Dun, dun.
Oh, that hurts. People are going out trying to, like, glitching out of the map, to see kind of the area that the train passes and shit like that in the game. So there's, like, probably only for the sake of the train going past them, I assume, would those textures be kept. But there are kind of large areas that people have been exploring in the game.
Right, yeah. I mean, obviously the train section, that's going to be something that you might be able to glitch your way into. But the other ones that I've seen, it's pretty extensive. It obviously wasn't complete.
There's
There
just
were a
little
lot of-
things that they left.
Yeah, there's just a lot of barren land. I don't know.
Wow. One of the main characters was once called Ringo, or by some people of the team. It says, guess who it is?
Wait, what?
Which one do you think
Ringo?
was called Ringo?
Ringo?
Fuck, I don't know.
Is that a Beatles reference, you think?
Maybe. If it's a Beatles reference, who would it be?
I don't know, man. I don't know my Beatles too
Well, Ringo is the one that doesn't look super fucking old. He's the drummer.
So, Prompto?
Maybe, yeah.
Maybe someone else will know. A big Beatles fan will be like, oh, I get it. Or it's connected to something totally different we don't even know.
Yeah.
It says on the FF part, it was kind of mandatory for the staff to play the classic Final Fantasies while working on this game. So this guy who worked on it said he grew to love them. They were neat, and I wish I'd finished them earlier. So he must not have played the Final Fantasies before he was hired on. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, that is kind of nuts. I mean, for such a prolific series like that, you'd think you'd want to have people that are either that have been involved with it extensively prior to it, or at least know a little bit about it and then have played them. So
then he also talks about, like, certain levels being repurposed and released for the current version of the game. I'm not sure if it's stuff, because you don't get the rest of the conversation. I'm not sure if it's stuff they were talking about from 4chan. Like, other people were like, oh, are they going to include versus areas in the game? Or are they going to include old areas from storylines that they decided to cut in the game? He says, yeah, I'm sure they can release it later as downloads or repurpose the assets, but I fear that some levels are not going to be released since they wouldn't fit with the rewritten story. He says the game was too ambitious, in his opinion, for the development time available to work on it now. From the outside, unfortunately, now we've read up some information for the Final Fantasy 15 review. Obviously, most of the development has taken place in the last 3 years.
Yeah.
And maybe it was too big for the Square Enix staff to take on that game in 3 years. But to us, often it looks like 10 years. Like, it looks like a 10-year development time. Like, we saw the shit before. Come on.
Yeah.
But, that's what he says about it. I guess they did do a console switch. They did do, many of the staff switched over.
yeah, and I mean, honestly, what does it even take to have a trailer? A very basic idea and some cutscene, and that's it. And that's what they released for Versus 13. I think the fans were making more out of it than it actually was. So
It says, in my opinion, the only problem with the development process, so maybe not as chaotic in other ways, maybe not as personally chaotic like Final Fantasy XII's development seems to be. Once again, we're judging from the outside. In his opinion, they just didn't have enough time, and sometimes we spent development time creating stuff that wasn't part of the actual game just for promotional material.
Yeah, like the freaking Platinum demo and episode Duesque and whatever. Like the stuff that they didn't need. Like the Justice Monsters 5.
I think episode Duesque they need.
Or the King's Tale game.
This is one of the things that makes me think that this is real, is his response to whatever the next question is here.
Okay.
I didn't get fired. My contract didn't get renewed. That's what he says personally to someone who asked him if he was fired off of the game.
Yeah, I feel like if it was someone...
That's too truthful, you know? That's like too...
If he was like an anti-Square Enix person that was bullshitting this whole thing, he probably would have said, I got fired. If he was doing it as like a slight against the company, so...
Yeah, or
maybe he thought of that.
Either that or he's an amazing sociopath.
Yeah, yes.
Like, he's incredibly manipulative and very smart. Says, I didn't solve any problems per se, but the porting to console system process got on my nerves. I'm sure that gets on everybody's nerve in development. It seems like a convoluted system.
Yeah.
Let's see. Disappointed, the fans, and some of the design choices were very questionable.
Yeah, this guy says the end of the game was supposed to be left open for interpretation. If he recalls correctly, he says they weren't supposed to have any death scene or anything, so he assumes that they are alive.
Which is pretty consistent with a lot of the fan talk about the ending, whether or not they're dead or alive. Personally, I think they're dead. Obviously, there was some Versus 13 stuff that makes me think they were dead.
Yeah.
Kaleb Craig, what was your interpretation of the ending?
For 15?
Yeah.
Pretty much that they were dead. Like, it kind of leaves it so that it seems like he was reunited with Luna, and she was obviously dead. So they just kind of made it his kind of own personal heaven, I guess, where he's with her. Because it didn't show anybody else. He was just there alone with her on a throne. So I think it was kind of just like their afterworld type thing, where after defeating the evil in the place, he just kind of goes to heaven or whatever.
So do our own Depeche Mode cover, your own personal heaven.
Yeah. Yeah, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Someone asks about Izunya, and I think he's referring to Arden.
Yeah.
And he says, what Izunya? If you mean the Izunya from 1,000 years ago, that's Noctis's ancestor.
Yeah.
Another big rumor, which we kind of talked about on the 15.
Yeah, I totally think that's
totally,
legit.
yeah, that seems like, I know it's not from Square, possibly, but that is totally like a confirmation. Which is crazy.
Yeah, he says the focus for most of the development time ended up being the Lucius area, so the later parts of the game had a lot of cut content that wasn't ready. However, as far as he knows, the fact that the Empire is completely in chaos once you get to it never changed.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
So there was never like a clean Empire.
Yeah.
He never got to explore it. That's kind of sad.
See, they started building mechanics on stuff as he left for other characters, so he didn't really know that much about that. Solheim region. Which one was Solheim? Am I going crazy here?
I don't remember Solheim.
Is that the Shiva region, maybe? Someone's going to correct me on that. But he says they never worked on Solheim, so it was never cut. Said so that was maybe that's a region that a lot of people are like, where is it?
Yeah. One big controversial chunk of the game is the Leviathan level. And here he says that he remembers the level design being a bit different last year, and it had to be sort of redesigned because it didn't run well and the engine was having problems. Now, we all know that
That's not surprising.
Right. We all know the Leviathan fight was massively different when we first saw it back in that old school trailer.
Yeah.
It was super interactive. Noctis was jumping around. The water was coming through the windows. You were seeing the town being destroyed around you, and he was kind of evading that in almost a God of War style combat system. So it's not surprising to see him talking about the Leviathan level being cut, but not running on the engine. I mean, this was a PS3 game at one time, and they had the demo for it then. So I don't know.
Maybe the gameplay for that part was too different for the engine to handle from the rest of the game.
Yeah, maybe. And it's not like a 2 different, like Chapter 13, 2 different, where it's like a slow and plotting thing. It's like 2 different, like super fast. Yeah. I don't know.
He does talk about like other things though. Like he talks about having to make things just for PR. So was the Leviathan fight directly from that?
From the
PR animations, or was it the sort of pseudo gameplay that they had going on that wasn't working? I don't know. I know that the Leviathan version we got from earlier trailers, like from 2014, I believe, those looked pretty awesome. Not that the new one in the actual 15 isn't awesome.
It's pretty sweet.
It's just awesome in a different way, I would argue. But then he talks about a little bit of lore here. Says something about not being familiar with the 13 universe, which was obviously part of the question asked. But he says he thinks more than one crystal existed in the game, and that each crystal had a family, which sort of they acted as bodyguards. And Noctis was part of the Lucius family, and the heroine was part of the other family. So what was that, Stella, right? Stella was the girl cut out of the game.
Her name. I think her name was Stella.
And the game had a lot to do with death, so Noctis was continually using weapons of dead family members, which that turned up in the game. That part.
Yeah, dead ancestors, not so much the like Aunt Jemima's fucking
Jemima's like
rolling
syrup
pin
thing. Yeah.
Oh my god. So there was a certain point when he was told that a certain level, which he said was the snowy area with the Shiva statue, was going to get deleted anyway after working on it for weeks nonstop, and then having to work on a bootleg version for that level.
Wow.
So he was working on the snow level, this guy, and it was cut.
Yeah, for weeks. Jeez.
Yeah. So the team had to keep up a lot of things from past projects because the former director shared details about them. Oh, okay, yeah. I assume Ravis was one of those things that had to be kept because details about him were previously announced. So they probably would have cut Ravis out of the game had not Ravis like showed up in a PR thing.
Oh, that seems kind of dumb. I mean, they cut Stella out of the game, and she was part of some of the original trailers. Like, it's
true.
Yeah.
You need to make those decisions sometimes. If you're gonna do it or you're not gonna do it.
He didn't have that big of a part in the game.
That's what.
So maybe they only kept him because they put him in the movie trailer or something.
But they might not have needed to because he really, I don't know. I don't think he made that much of an impact. And a lot of the cool stuff that he did, we didn't actually get to see.
He only appeared like
doing.
3 times in the game for like 5 minutes.
Yeah,
so.
And the coolest thing he did like off cam anyway, and then we found him dead, and he had his diary all around him, and we could read up on what happened.
Said the story had to be partly rewritten last year, 2015, after the movie had entered full production. So that's why characters may have inconsistencies between the game and the film.
Oh my god.
Oh wow.
So they had to change the game in order to match the movie.
Yeah.
God damn it.
And that movie's so bad too. That movie's so bad. Have you watched the movie?
I haven't seen it yet.
Okay, well then you gotta watch that fucking terrible movie.
You have to watch this shit
Dude, it's
movie.
bad. It is bad. It is not as bad as Godzilla's Revenge / All Monsters Attack for any Godzilla podcast listeners out there, but it is bad movie.
Yeah. So this next section, one of the game's odd little quirks is that it still feels like it's stuck back in 2006. And that's something that both Joe and I noticed when we were looking at the end product. The clothing they're wearing is very My Chemical Romance-esque. A lot of leather, a lot of black, and this might be the reason. Yeah, this might be the fucking glove thing. Yes, this might be the reason why. Apparently, a lot of people wanted to change the designs of the protagonists, and a bunch of contractual problems surfaced, and they basically couldn't change the way they looked, and the decision to make them look that way was made a long time ago, aka the 2006 clothing style that we saw. And they were required to use it for a large part of the game.
What kind of contract forces people to keep a
PR? Your characters
clothing
have to
design
look consistent.
I guess, but
well, yeah, but a clothing design? Like, seriously?
I don't know, man. It just it would screw up their image, I think.
They already had the thing where you could change the clothing anyways.
They think it'll screw up the image, and it might. Here's this. This is crazy. There were references to the heroine having been abused by other characters. Some scenes would have featured Luna crying because of her health. There were also mentions of her goal in life being meeting the male protagonist's objectives, which the team considered were going to be problematic since the game had been carrying a bad reputation because of the way they portrayed female characters. So, because of the way Cindy was sort of like jumped upon. Do you remember that?
I don't.
Do you remember the backlash because of what Cindy was wearing, basically?
Oh, yeah,
really, yeah. They took out some abuse stuff with Luna, Freya. That's kind of crazy.
Well, she does get pretty abused in the end anyway. I mean, a knife to the gut is pretty fucking brutal.
I mean, this seems different.
So, like, abused by her captors? Like,
I just
in the
read
city?
it as you got it.
Yeah.
Maybe by the captors. Yeah. Yeah, man.
I guess I could see that with them cutting it.
Well, if they're going to keep the game dark, maybe they should have just kept that. I mean, dark shit is always nice in a Final Fantasy.
Yeah. Kind of goes over the same thing again. The game centered around death, ghost, hallucination.
Yeah.
Noctis killed her before. Arden was Noctis' ancestor, responsible for the crystals disappearing over time. Yeah, Regis died in front of him. I think Regis dying in front of him would have been an awesome addition, though I don't really know how you can see him die and then still get out. Get out of the town. I don't know, maybe the same way they got out in Kingsglaive with the little, like, protect wall. I don't fucking know.
I have a thing here. The next game from the team is not planning on using this engine.
Okay.
So it seems like what we've heard, they've had problems with that engine. Their custom built engine that they totally didn't need to make.
Right. I mean, these things, this is why the budget on some of these games is so fucking high. It's because they're building a new engine. FF7's budget was fucking nuts compared to Final Fantasy VIII's. It's the first one on the new console, and they're building a whole new engine that doesn't really work.
Okay, so this is him talking about his opinion on Hajime Tabata. Says, I liked him, and he's an excellent professional. He gets jobs done in very difficult circumstances. The engine didn't adapt well to consoles and had limitations. I'm proud to have worked on the game, but I think the company should have given it more development time. I don't know about FF16. There were a lot of designs and concepts scrapped, some of them by Ferrari, which I believe is a company?
The car company?
No, like it might be one of the other companies that worked on the game.
Oh, okay.
Did you know? Okay, so they brought in a whole... Now, I could be totally off on this, and it could have just been a car design, and he just related to that. But there were a lot of other... there were a lot of companies involved in the making of this game. So, I mean, Ferrari could have been one of them. Either the car company or just like a gaming company called Ferrari.
Well, we know Cup Noodles was definitely involved.
Yeah,
fuck it. Yeah, man. There you go. So maybe not a Regalia.
Yeah, it was a Ferrari.
What was it? Like an Audi? Is that what they had in
Yeah.
in Kingsglaive?
Yeah, it was an Audi.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see. They were concepts for a city that looked like old London with British bridges and architecture. He doesn't know anything else about that.
Well, that sounds kind of like Altissia, right?
No, that's more like Venice.
Yeah, it is. It is Venice.
So remember he talked about before that there were originally going to be like a whole bunch of capital cities, and they were going to be kind of artistically based on other cities in real life.
So maybe this is just one of the other ones.
This is just one of the other ones.
All right. That's fair.
So the artwork used for Grelea Capital in the game was taken straight out of the Versus project. So he thinks it remained the same. The throne room, however, was different from the in the Empire. What the fuck? Okay, he gets all weird.
And the Emperor sat there waiting for him.
Okay.
Is what he's saying.
Oh, so the Emperor used to be in the room waiting for him as well? Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah.
So Arden and the Emperor, like the Emperor wasn't fucking gutted out in the middle of the game?
And turned into like some random demon that you fight? Yeah, okay.
We were also supposed to be able to go to Tenebrae. There was supposed to be a small dungeon there that they ended up cutting out. And if he recalls correctly, the invasion didn't begin until the protagonists entered the city.
Hadn't heard anything about the former director, he said. Obviously, he didn't work under him. But the project needed to change directors because the company needed a mainline game to be shipped in 2016, which appealed to mainstream trends, and they trusted Tabata to do it. And they didn't trust Slowmura.
Yeah.
Which she's now been dubbed officially Slowmura. Never fucking finishes anything.
Yeah, this next one seems like it's talking about chapter 13 in the game. He's saying why, if you're asking why that chapter is inspired by survival horror elements, the team thought it was going to be a good change of pace that would build momentum. Seems like the level failed to deliver and annoyed players, which he totally understands. Let's see. The only DLC episodes that were planned when he left were the playable Prompto, Gladiolus, and Ignis DLCs that have been announced.
So I think he's talking about 13 versus 13 here. As far as he knows, the game started as one single game, and then the story got expanded more, and the former director wanted to divide it in parts. But then it was condensed again into one single game by the new team. So I guess they took, so they're not just taking like one. This is interesting. So we know about they wanted a Versus 13 trilogy, or at least they were talking about it.
Yeah, right.
And they had a story for that entire trilogy.
Mm-hmm.
And he says condensed here. Now, obviously he wasn't part of that development team. Who knows? But if he means condensed, then that means that this was like the
parts
arc of the trilogy. And this was brought into one thing.
Right, one thing plus Kingsglaive, because we remember they split the game into Kingsglaive and the game because they didn't have enough time in the game to tell the entirety of the story. So it could have been both.
Huh. So that's interesting. I guess I'm not sure if I buy the splitting off for Kingsglaive thing.
Do you think Kingsglaive was just an afterthought?
I don't know, man. Like we're moving to a new director. We got this cool story element. Maybe it came from Versus. I guess it could have been a playable sort of thing. Nyx probably wasn't involved, if I were to speculate. Nyx probably wasn't a character.
I don't know.
No, I think they said something about he was made for the Kingsglaive movie.
No, yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So Noctis would have been the character in the original Versus 13 trilogy.
Yeah, he's saying that Kingsglaive is not part of the trilogy concept.
Oh, no.
Which it might not be.
Events in there.
Yeah, I mean, the King Regis dying.
King Regis dying.
That's obviously something that should have been in the game, or at least in some form of media associated with the game. I don't know. That's the only reason why I would consider it potentially part of the initial trilogy, but you got a good point. The rest of it doesn't necessarily seem like a playable concept. I don't know what kind of a fucking game that would make. It wouldn't be a good start, I'll tell you that.
There's some very specific things that he says were cut. Well, the first stop after Altissia had a smaller open world area, and you could drive the car alone. There was a level leading up to when you encounter the Shiva statue. So instead of just getting right off the train and going to the Shiva statue, there was some sort of level there, which I think would have been interesting.
Yeah.
I still fucking dig that train sequence, even though I don't go into that city. I still dig that shit. The Dark World section of the game featured more environments. You encountered each party member in different locations. Final Fantasy VI.
Yeah.
And you could explore part of Lestalem. That's probably the one that hurts the most, I think.
Yeah, it is.
It's totally like, it just feels like something wasn't there. And they didn't even write a scene that was like, dude, what the fuck? Where have you been?
Yeah.
They just write the crying scene flashback thing at the end.
Yeah.
It's a great scene, but
Yeah, it is a great scene. It's still
not
like,
enough.
what? Like, obviously they were planning on doing something just like FF6. So Arden sort of destroys the world, like Kefka did in FF6.
The World of Ruin.
But in FF6, like a huge part of that game, the last 1/3 of that game, if not more, you can of course stretch it out. Last third of that game is you getting your old party members back.
Yeah.
And going to defeat Kefka.
Seeing what they've
And
been up
getting new
to.
ones,
Yeah, then they're finishing their own little arcs and stuff like that.
You get cutscenes with them. You get to see what they're doing. You don't get a fucking truck trip and someone telling you what they've been doing, telling you how awesome they are. These people that are so epic that they don't even need to live in town with everybody else.
You
They
gotta
can
wait
just
for their
fuck off,
individual
right?
DLCs to find out.
Dude. Like, I can wait there for hours and hours and hours, and Cindy won't show up. Like, where is she? Where is Iris? She can't be demon hunting 24/7. You gotta fucking sleep.
It says the final boss, which was another form of Arden, so we were going to have 3 Arden forms,
That's pretty standard.
was cut early in the year.
Yeah, standard FF.
Tenebrae invasion happened after the protagonist entered the city, and he got to explore a very small section of the city and Luna's chamber.
Ooh,
Ooh.
that sounds fucking awesome.
Yeah, I'm sure some people aren't not happy about hearing that. Scenes that featured Luna got cut because they were considered to be problematic. That's very vague. Core got written out of the last half of the story since it made no sense for him to show up. He was not his opinion during the small open area. after
That doesn't make any sense because him getting cut out of the game made less sense. Because, like, he was there the entire time and he's like, I'm just going to let you fuck off now. Because, like, he even shows back up before you go to Altissia. He's like in there, like being like, oh, you guys can just go. I'm not going to do anything to help you out.
I think.
Yeah, sorry, I was cut.
Yeah.
I can't.
It would have been cool if I came with you, but I'm totally not going to fucking do that.
I believe someone probably asked him a question about sequels they were working on. Says, I don't know about this versus 15 thing, but I highly doubt it's true, whatever that was. The only games being developed around FF15 are for mobile, last time I heard.
Yep.
So, as far as he knows, no sequels in the making. He says, I don't think they will make the World of Ruin levels that were unfinished explorable unless there's more story DLC plan. I doubt they will release the Luna scenes since the response would not be good, he says. But the deleted scenes about the Empire might get released. I want to know what these deleted scenes about the Empire are. That'd be interesting.
Yep.
Like I said, Luna was featured in more scenes, but they got cut. The original Leviathan fight combined interiors and exteriors and many enemies on screen. Luna also appeared in the fight itself.
Oh, nice.
Like I said earlier, the final form of Arden was cut early this year. Haven't heard anything about the strategy guide. Who the fuck asks a question about the fucking strategy guide when you're on that shit? And then he says he's got to go. So, Craig, that's what we have about the development of Final Fantasy Versus 13 into Final Fantasy 15, and some of the problems that plagued FF15. Now we've also heard other things where like Tabata apparently only got 3 hours of sleep a night for a long time.
Poor Tabata.
And the staff was just generally overworked trying to get that game out on time, even after they moved the date over. How you feel about all this? So, did you like 15? Did you dislike 15? Tell us that first, and then tell us what this new information kind of adds to 15.
I like 15, but while I was playing 15, I totally knew that there was a lot of shit that was missing. I felt like I was playing half a game. The fact that they had to have story being told to you through the anime that they released for PR and the movie that they released for PR, and that they were going to have like this separate other game, King's Tale, that told a story but isn't really canon, even though it totally kind of is. Because it's about like Noctis's dad in the past and whatever, and it's like, well, you didn't need to do all this extra shit. You could have just made the game, especially since like they were on a really tight schedule and they had to release the game before the end of 2016, which is insane. If they had to switch directors like halfway through, and then they changed the story a couple times. It's like, you gotta stick with something and then just go. You can't like release like a PR like shit. 40% of the game and be like, this is all we could do.
Yeah. I feel like a lot of the PR stuff though was stuff they had already started working on though. I don't think it's so much along the lines of, well, we gotta have this, so let's take 10 people off the team to work on this project and then this project and then this project. It was all stuff they had started building and they already had a baseline for. And now they're like, well, fuck, we've already spent like, I don't know, $1 million on these side project things. We have to release them.
Well, they also spent millions of dollars on a special car thing. And then they like, as far as I know, the Kingsglaive doesn't even need to exist, because I haven't seen it and I got the gist of the story, and they could have put cutscenes for him dying in there like after he left. Like they could have done something like that to like add to the story. They didn't need to make a separate movie, which took animators to create that entire thing, when they spent more money on that, which they could have spent on adding more people to staff to fucking just like make the shit out of this game while they had time.
Yeah.
But they spent time doing something else that they didn't need to.
You know what? I'll say one thing now. If we have an episode when we're doing a podcast that we are just not okay with, you know what we do? We just start it over. We say, all right, we're not going to put out something that we're not proud of or that we're not at least okay with.
We used to do that. I don't think we do that anymore.
we used to, but we don't do it anymore because we don't suck anymore. We're a lot better at being entertaining.
The last time we had to do a restart was FF13's review. So it's been a while, but
FF13, yeah, it's because the story we were drawing a massive blank on is bad. It was bad. It was rough. But when we have something that's not good, we say we're going to delay it.
It's
okay?
not that it's not good. It has to be awful.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it applies. I don't think FF15 is awful.
No, I don't think it's
awful either.
I don't think it's awful, but if it's not done, it's not done. If you need more time, just grow a pair of balls and delay the fucker again. You've already shit on your entire $1 million event, the 15 Uncovered event. That is all out the fucking window at this point. You've already fucked up. Yeah. So to fuck up and then release a game in a chunk, and then release another chunk later, and then another chunk here, another chunk there. We get all this information about past stuff that was being worked on. You can see it in the game. You can feel it in the game. And it was delayed. Like, what? Just delay it again. Just finish the fucking thing. Like,
be a Diablo 2. Or be a 3.
Yeah.
Diablo 3 was put out on time, I think.
Take the time to finish it. It's fine. People will still play the fucking thing. There will be a lot of butthurt fans in the beginning, but you know what? It's a Final Fantasy game. It's going to do well.
It's a publicly traded company now, and they have stockholders that they have to appease.
Yeah, they do.
Which is unfortunate. They lose their independence because of that. I don't know, man. It's rough, but I like the game as we got it. Craig, I don't think we've heard your thoughts on this podcast about Final Fantasy 15. They heard like 6 hours of our thoughts. So
yeah, it was crazy.
Wait, real quick, actually, before you share your thoughts, do you guys think this is legit? I do think this is legit.
I do too, because he does go into some detail on stuff that like totally makes sense. Having a contract not being renewed, that also makes sense. They wouldn't just fire somebody to pay more money to have them severed from the contract.
Yeah.
Even if they were being a douche, releasing
we
some
skipped
stuff.
over it, but he talks about his current employee situation. He's like, I went back to work for another company, like the company I was working for before. And I'm like, okay, that's very specific, but vague enough that it seems like the truth,
for 15, it does seem like they would hire a bunch of people to like help out with 15.
Oh yeah,
so
they did.
Like a short-term contract would make sense if the guy didn't know anything about if he was only there for like a year.
I don't know. I don't know what they were working on in this category.
Yeah.
And it's not always obvious stuff. So.
Yeah, he would only know a small part or whatever he was working on.
Do you think it's real or do you think it's bogus?
I think it's probably real, but I also think that it doesn't really matter if it is or not, because I think a lot of the things that it addresses we're
not going to see or have anything to do with.
Yeah, I feel like they're legitimate concerns and problems that the game had upon release. There are things missing. I think the problem here is that it's not whether or not this is real or fake isn't clear cut, and it's because there are so many issues that this article addresses. And I think that's really what I wanted to focus on with it. It's like, well, it doesn't even matter if it's true or not, because I totally agree with like half of this, and I could feel it when I was playing the game. I could see like, oh man, missed opportunity there, or like, what the fuck is this core guy? Like, why is he in here for like 10 minutes and now he's like, all right, see ya, fuck off, I'm not part of this adventure anymore. This is your story, and it's either way, fake or not fake, it touches on a lot of points, and it seems pretty plausible. I don't have a problem with this one being accepted.
Okay, Craig. What do you think about 15?
What I think about 15?
What do you think about the story?
All right, so I liked 15. I had some problems with mostly gameplay outside of the story. I mean, like the story was kind of fine. I like the human elements of the characters going along. You like really get to know the characters, and their interactions seem natural and everything. And the characters, I think, are the best part.
Yeah,
the story is lackluster, for the most part, except for like the last third. Like then it goes really, into it, especially like after the Leviathan thing, and then he like sees Luna dies in front of him. The train sequence, all that shit just goes. Yeah, and the story is like really awesome.
So the hallway is the best part.
The hallway is the best part. Like all the open world stuff is just like, oh well, I got to level up for that part that I'm going to be fighting. Because once you get to the hallway, there is no going back.
No, there is.
Well, if you use the Umbra thing, but
yeah, you're going way back too.
Yeah,
going back in time.
Back in time to like quests. Ambiguous things where, hey, if we go back in time, can we change the future?
Oh my god! Whoa. Don't say those words, dude. Yeah. Dude, Final Fantasy 13-2.
Yeah, my god. That is a line from 13-2.
We can change the future. That's in every fucking cutscene.
Yeah.
So in Final Fantasy 13, there was we're going to say something really dramatic, turned around, and then the piano's going to go bling, ding, 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 ding. There was a pattern in every cutscene. 13-2 does not do that, thank God. Yeah. But there is
what is that
constant reminders about how we're going to change the past to change the future, or we're going to go change the future. We're going to go save the future by changing the future. Let's change the future.
What is that character that you're like, dude, this character's super hot, and I told you I hated her? What is her fucking name? Alyssa. Yeah, she is the worst about that in that game. She's like, oh, man, this thing happened this year. It's too bad we can't get there. And I'm like, what? Come on. Well, we can fucking get there. We have a Moogle that has a fucking time clock, wand. We control time. Why do you have to remind me that this is about fucking with time every 2 seconds, Alyssa?
Hey,
what the
fuck? Change the future, Caleb.
I know. I know. We've done it like 7 times already, bitch. And she just keeps bringing it up. It's maddening. It's like the game has to remind you every 10 seconds. Oh, yeah. By the way,
You can change the future.
you can change the future. This is a time plot.
I also feel like you can change the future is the most obvious thing you can ever say.
It's like, obviously.
It's like if I picked up that wallet right in front of me, I've changed the future just a little bit.
if you change the future, you change the past. That's a big one, too, Troy.
If you change the future, they do say that.
Like-
they said that a lot at the beginning. Now it's mostly about changing the future.
I watched
Yeah.
Caleb stream for like 30 minutes and I heard that line like 4 times.
Okay.
Yeah.
I bet you did. I bet you did.
I guess. I know this is what it is.
We could change
Crazy.
But anyway, yeah, for 15, the last part of the story was pretty great. Confronting like Arden and everything, and then walking into the throne room where he's just got the fucking hanging bodies was like, I was like, that is the darkest part of this fucking game.
What do you think about Arden compared to other bad guys in the series?
Arden was pretty good, actually. He was kind of weird in the beginning, but like he was trying to get all chummy with them, even though he wanted them to fight him, and he didn't say anything about it. He was just kind of being weird. So I think it was kind of Kefka-esque.
Yeah.
And like they tried to do like sick stuff. I could see it.
Yeah, you see it a lot in this game.
Yeah.
And I think for the better. I would say.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was pretty good. As far as like the gameplay stuff, I also enjoyed the gameplay. The thing that I hated of the gameplay though was the fucking food system. I fucking hate it.
I didn't understand it at the beginning, but by the end I was like, gotta kill this adamantoise, man. Gotta figure this
hate
system
it.
out.
Hate it.
I'm sorry.
I hate it so much, dude. Like, if you're gonna fucking put that in there, why not make it something
That's it.
like I don't mind the coming up of new recipes. I just don't like that the fucking leveling up doesn't fucking matter as long as you have the gil to buy like this one thing of food that can give you like 600 bonus attack. Like something way more than you would ever get by leveling up to 99. Yeah. It's like, why the fuck have that? Why put that in the game? Why not have the food if you're going to have it in there?
I dig the food.
Just be like fucking experience or like a defense thing. Like instead of being like, hey,
great food.
You have to eat the fucking food or you're going to die.
Eat the food, Caleb, or you're going to die.
We have the best cooks, wonderful cooks.
Wonderful
Caleb,
cooks.
all over the world. These people come from all over the world.
The world?
Here to cook.
That's it.
It's just,
Yeah. I do like the food, and I like how there are a couple different ways to get power. That's one of the things I love about the series is it's not always the same level up and get better system, because that's for lame people. Yeah, get better at it. There's different strategies.
I didn't use the food for most of the game, and I was still destroyed it. So like,
Sure, you ate the food.
I used it a couple times, especially when I was like farming for the item to get Ultima weapon. I had to use the fucking boost attack thing. So I could break that like fucking horn off.
All of the games have different weird little quirks that you can do. I mean, 10, the sphere grid is an entire thing that's similar to the food.
I know, and that's what that's a gripe I have is like the freaking, they have like a board where you put all your AP points into, but none of those things, there's like, oh hey, you can get like, 2 attack points for every level. But if you buy this food that's 7,000 gil, you're gonna level up way fucking more.
Way more. You didn't
way
bitch at all.
more.
You didn't bitch at all in 12 when you got the license board keys, when you got like 500 extra health out of fucking nowhere. You know how many levels 500 health takes in that fucking game? A lot of fucking levels, Caleb.
It's true, but I like the license board. So
You like that one, but you don't like the food.
I don't like the food.
Is it because it's temporary or what?
It lasts like 2 seconds, and it's like, hey, you have to spend like a shitload of money on this. It's like, no wonder the fucking gas was 10 gil. You have to spend all your fucking money on food.
Yeah, food tax is through the roof here.
I know. I bought like a 30,000 fucking lasagna. 300,000 lasagna.
Yeah.
This is much. That's like 4 times as much as any hotel room I was getting in that.
Well,
wait. Can we figure out the real world money based on okay?
Like, what was it? What didn't people say it was like $1 for like a gill or
No,
whatever?
a yen.
Or it was like, it was the yen.
Yeah,
1
the yen is
yen,
probably the
so-
most comparable.
100 yen is $1.
$1.
Yeah.
So 300,000 yen is how much?
Well, that
Take
would
2
be
zeros off.
that'd be like $300. Yeah. Oh, it would.
300,000? No, it'd be 3,000.
You take 2 zeros off.
2 zeros.
Okay, so $3,000 lasagna. That's a little pricey. That's not like insanely like I can't believe anything would ever be priced that high.
But also, with those prices, like the hotels are super cheap, though.
Because there was only like 500 gil or something like that, and then gas was like 10 gil to fill up your goddamn tank.
There's clearly some.
And then at some point, you don't even need to do that. So it's like, oh, okay.
Well, as long as Ignis is driving on his own and you've been to the place before, yeah, gas doesn't matter, man.
Quick travel,
Just
then,
teleport.
Then you just get
Well,
loads.
as
yeah,
far as I can tell.
No, the quick travel, I think, does take down gas.
No, dude. I don't think it does. I never
Nope.
ran out of gas, and I quick traveled.
Nope.
Like
What
a
was the fucking point of having gas?
I don't fucking know.
Because like
to
as soon
piss
as
you off. That's
as soon
the
as
point.
there's like an item you can buy so that you don't have to get like gas anymore. And then
Yeah.
if you get the Regalia Type F, there
It's
is no
for
more
you
gas.
to stop by and be like, hey, yo, what hunts?
Yeah, what
What's up in here?
What it's
Fucking
for
dumb.
is for you to run out and Cindy to fucking tow you, and then after you get towed,
I never did the toe thing. Never had to.
After you get towed,
I'm not into Joe stuff.
you forget that you got towed because you had no gas, and you go do a couple side quests, and then you jump back in the car. You drive like 2 feet. It breaks down. You run out of gas, and you can't get it refilled right there. She comes and tows it again. She won't just put it in neutral and help you push it back to the pump. No.
Well, there was a whole thing in the beginning where you push the car. I mean, you would assume that you could do it again.
Exactly. Oh, that's a good fucking point. Why can't I push the car when it dies later?
Can't.
What is it like? Lock up
tow it.
and I can't put it in neutral? Is Gladiolus just like a bitch about it because he was whining the whole time?
Yeah, probably.
Also, that car's really nice and it breaks down right the fuck out of town.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
God damn it.
It wasn't really that far away from
The used
from
car
Hammerhead.
salesman they got that thing from.
Yeah, he's like the king has never driven it. Is just like it looks really nice. I'm just gonna leave it here.
He drives it like twice. The one time in the
Totally
past.
gypped this king.
Yeah. Spends way too much money on it.
It was awesome. He's so out of touch.
All right. Well, this episode's long enough that I think we can skip questions, but we do have an iTunes review and we got a questions from us to you. So,
iTunes reviews. iTunes reviews. Oh man, we actually have a couple reviews here from the great land of Sweden. I'm going to read one and I'll let you take the other one. This one is a 5-star review from Malga on the 10th of February 2017. Great FF podcasts that can be enjoyed by both people who are new to the series and gamers who has hung around since the first game. Thank you very much.
I'm sorry, Caleb. What
Malga.
accent was that supposed to be?
I don't know. I don't know. I need my Darth Jamu impersonation. That was not it.
It was vaguely German and with some other
is
stuff in
das?
there. So I was just like,
Where is your accent, Schweiss?
great podcast. What's that old guy, that Max von Sydow guy? I don't know. I can't do it. I'm not going to do it. Great. Wait, you read the top one or the bottom?
Bottom.
Okay.
Read top.
So I'll read the top one. This is Awesome by Grand Shi. Playing the FF games for more than 10 years. For more than 10 years ago. This podcast made me rediscover the awesomeness of the series. To the hosts, don't ever stop swearing. If you do, I'll send Don Corneo after you.
Well,
We don't want that.
no, we don't.
We don't. So thank you very much, our dear Swedish friends, for giving us reviews on iTunes. Really helps us out, and we really appreciate it.
Yeah. It's good to see the Sweden fan base representing there. There's only couple that we know of. So
Yes.
thank you very much.
We do have a question from us to you, and then we shall wrap it up.
Alrighty.
Okay, so Final Fantasy 13-2 may not get beat next week. Depends on Schweiss's schedule, but it should be beaten 2 weeks from now, at least.
Yeah, at the very latest.
So we need your Final Fantasy 13 reviews, or 13-2 reviews. We already played 13. Don't give us those. And your Final Fantasy 13-2 related questions. And anything about the game. If you want us to touch on something, you must ask a question, because sometimes we skip things. That's because no one asks us any questions, and then we just assume that no one needs to talk about a certain thing, or we forget about it, or whatever. So there should be, by tonight, I'll post 2 threads in the forum that will give you some areas to ask us your 13-2 questions and give us your 13-2 reviews, and we look forward to hearing from you on those.
And speaking of question from us to you, we did have one last week. In a way, it was a category left out of the Final Fantasy Academy Awards. We had the voting pool for Best Final Fantasy Soundtrack. The nominees were Tactics, Final Fantasy IV, Final Fantasy VI, 7, 8, 9, 10, Crisis Core, Final Fantasy 11, Final Fantasy 15, and Final Fantasy 14.
The one. Oh, you want to go and last to?
Yeah, Final Fantasy 11 and Tactics tied with 0 votes for last place.
Oh, that's sad.
That is sad, because the music in Tactics, I think, is pretty fucking good.
It's
and
pretty
there's
sweet.
some great music in 11, but whatever. Second to last, we've got Final Fantasy 15
And Crisis Core.
and Crisis Core Final Fantasy 7 tying for that. FF4 and FF8 tying for third to last. Next, we have another tie between Final Fantasy 9 and Final Fantasy 10, and the clear winner, Final Fantasy 7. So, thank you guys for participating
Congratulations
in
again,
that.
Final Fantasy.
Yeah, it's a good season for FF7.
Oh boy. Oh, okay. I think that's going to be it for this episode. Make sure to, guys, go to ultimatefinalfantasy.com. Click on our forums there. Join the forums. It's great. It's tremendous.
Yeah.
It's fantastic.
Wonderful people.
Wonderful. You can tweet me at Joseph DeGollier.
Me at Obsidian Bar.
Me at Nude Clan Oh, fuck. Me.
Clan Cam, huh? That's
Me?
another guy.
Yeah. Me at UFF Podcast. I'm becoming Cameron. It's crazy.
You can support the show by going through our Amazon link and buying something, and we get a small kickback. Patreon link as well. Dave's working on shit, and if we owe you something and we haven't given you something, please let us know.
Yeah.
Because sometimes we get mixed up on things. So if that's important, please
Yeah.
get it to us soon.
Definitely. We miss shit, so.
And
Hound us.
well, shit, what else is there to say? I guess twitch.tv/Ultimate Final Fantasy. You can see the episodes live. Facebook.com/Ultimate Final Fantasy if you wish to talk to us there.
Yeah, and there's another great way to talk to us. It's our phone line that we have opened up for you guys, a Skype line. The number to that is 385-204-3921. That's 385-204-3921. Send us your intros, your questions, anything really. Yeah, go for it. Use it. It's an underutilized tool. It's a lot of fun hearing what some of you guys sound like after all these years, seeing you on our forums and whatnot.
Yeah.
It's quite interesting sometimes. So hit that up, and
Other shows.
yeah, we got
Fantastic shows.
great shows.
Great
best shows.
The best shows.
Yeah.
Godzilla podcast just recorded an episode tonight. So there should be one out by Tuesday when you're hearing this. God, it's the worst Godzilla movie ever. So if you want to hear me bitch about a movie, that's a good one to listen to. Godzilla's Revenge or All Monsters Attack. Not sure what I'm going to call the episode yet. super sexy swinging fan fiction.
Still alive.
Still alive, still kicking. And Nude Clan, our little flagship. So
yeah, go check it out. It's awesome. A lot of good shit.
Please do. Okay, Schweiss. We'll see you guys next week.
Enjoy the 13-2 grind.
This has been another production of Ultima Final Fantasy, the Ultimate Final Fantasy Podcast. The show was produced by Joseph DeGaulier and Kaleb Schweiss, with music and editing by Joseph DeGaulier, parodies and clips from their respective authors, of course. You can get all of our episodes as well as our Let's Plays at ultimafinalfantasy.com. You can also contact us on Twitter at UFF Podcast, as well as our contact page on our website. Be sure to subscribe and review our podcast. Your reviews may get read on the show, and look forward to the next episode of Ultima Final Fantasy, the Ultimate Final Fantasy Podcast.